What's going on, guys? We're back with another video today. It is a gorgeous morning out. It's going to be another scorcher, like 85 plus degrees out. Water temp is exploding. I got out here extra early today in hopes that it'd be a little better right away in the morning. So what we're going to talk about today is a video I've been wanting to make and haven't really been sure how to make. It's basically how walleyes relate to weeds. It's kind of a little bit different in every single lake, but with the screenshots I have and a lot of the underwater footage in which I've been kind of collecting over the last probably year here, we have some good shots kind of describing a lot what I'm talking about. And a lot of people have a tough time understanding basically how walleyes sit in weeds. A lot of times they think they're just right in the thick of it. And that's what we're gonna talk about today. We're gonna go out and catch some weed walleyes. We're gonna show you a ton of side imaging shots, how fish relate to weeds in different scenarios, and then add in some underwater footage too. So stay tuned, I'm excited, beautiful day out. Let's catch some walleyes, let's get it done. All right, so first cast, I'm gonna go ahead and screenshot it so you guys can see it. But basically what we have here is kind of walleye scattered out on top of a bald point. You can see I'm in about 13 feet. And I've got these little pods of fish just kind of sitting up on top here. A lot of times this is what you see kind of earlier in the morning when they're a little bit active. These fish kind of up on top of stuff, and I think my bobber is already down. Do not see it, which means it pretty much must be down. There we go. Right away. As I was talking about them being active, made one cast, and now one thing I'm always doing is staring at my side imaging. So as we're just sitting here, you can see I got fish still off the right. And that's very important because it lets me know those fish are still there. They're not spooking. This is a nice fish right off the bat too. Great way to start the day. I'm gonna net this one because this is just a cone. About a 24, 25. Oh yeah. That is the way you start the morning right there. Too awesome. You know, a lot of these super hot, just scorcher early summer days, the best thing you can do is be the first guy at the launch and the last guy to leave, but it's kind of a long day when you start there. We'll give you guys a look with the big camera here. All right, look at that. That is how you want to start the morning right there. Big chunk walleyes up in the weeds. Learn what you're looking at, learn how they're setting up, and you catch fish like that. Let's repeat that several more times. See you later, dude. Let's do that again. Gonna be one of these kind of deals. Another one on it. It feels like another good one. Not as big as the last one, but hey, when it's this quick, we'll take it. Side imaging. Oh, he just kind of gave up there. Side imaging is the deal. I know I talk about it pretty much in every video, but being able to look at that. So side imaging reads perfectly perpendicular to the back of your boat. So if I go ahead and show you what my screen's showing right now, off the right side, right where I'm casting about 30, 40 feet, is right where those fish are sitting. And I'm just constantly staring at that graph. Even when, you know, I'm just sitting here fishing. It's one of the big things that guys kind of, I think, forget to do a lot of times is when they are fishing, follow those fish around in a spot like this. So we have one rod left in the water now and it's on fish. There's another one on. One after another. Too much fun. You almost just don't want to stop doing this, even though we got, no, they're just, oh, you'll never believe this guy's dead. See, there's a muskie following the walleye. Okay, there's the muskie. I don't know if you guys even caught that. I'll let the walleye swim around, but look how big this walleye is that muskie was chasing. Life is happening up here right now. Fish are happy. Fish are biting. Here's another about, I don't know, 22-inch walleye. Look at that. That is what we're after right there. Beautiful walleyes to start the day. Still got one bobber I got to keep the eye on out there. Look at that. That is too cool. Beautiful walleyes. Let them go. Get them back in the water. Hooked off. I don't know what we got here. First it wasn't feeling very walleye-ish, but now it is feeling walleye-ish because it is a walleye. Take that, look at that. I love fishing clear water, if nothing else, just for that reason alone. Too cool fighting them. And you can literally see the bottom right here. I don't know if the GoPro's picking that up or not, but just a little cabbage edge. And that is the deal. Too awesome. Let's go ahead and grab him here. Hooked just how he should be. Look at that. Beautiful walleye. Look at that. Too cool. Pounding them this morning. Actually just moved spots and immediately, right away, fish on. We'll take them. Let's let that guy go. All right, well, that's gonna kind of wrap up the walleye fish catching portion of this video. Now we're gonna kind of get to the meat and potatoes of this video, the hardcore information part that you guys are probably here for. And you know, it's all about weeds. That's obviously what we're fishing. Weeds are pretty much hold walleyes all year long, kind of depending on where you are. And this video is mainly about how fish relate to weeds. Now, I got screenshots and underwater footage from a whole bunch of different lakes, from a whole bunch of different scenarios, and we're gonna kind of break those down. We're gonna start driving around. We're probably gonna drop the underwater camera, see some fish, find some fish, and do some talking. Stay tuned. All right, so we're kind of looking at the first little pot of fish that I've gone through, and this is what the sight you might see on a lot of lakes that have very large flats, kind of with weeds here, weeds here, weeds here, weeds here. Not like a thick necessarily line of weeds, more like a pocket of weeds here and a pocket of weeds here. So let's look at the screenshot here, and what you're gonna see is you're gonna see two weed lines off my left side. Both are very small, kind of like little patches. Weed line is probably the wrong word, but a patch of weeds. One, and the fish are sitting right in between them. You can see there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 kind of sitting around that. And you know, this is a pretty common sight to see in a lot of these northern style lakes. And these weeds are probably a mix of cabbage, some milfoil in there, and you can see those fish are relating directly kind of between them. And one big misconception is that a lot of times these fish are gonna pack right into the thickest stuff, right? That's not really the case most of the time. And a lot of times when I'm fishing weeds, I like to think there's more fish there than I see, but in reality, I think you can see most of the fish are there. And a lot of times the underwater footage verifies that stuff. So you can see these couple of fish sitting not right in the weeds and not above the weeds, but basically right between those two things of weeds. And I'll see if I can kind of zoom in on them here, kind of show you a white. It doesn't show up that good on this one. You can kind of sort of see it. I'll screenshot it again. But the other thing to note, especially because, you know, we're in 12 feet of water right now, is these fish are not plastered right to the bottom. And of all the underwater camera stuff I've done, these fish are almost always elevated 2 or 3 feet up off bottom, even in a lot of these shallower depths. So a lot of times you can kind of gauge that by that white speck like you can see here, and then the shadow behind it. You know, if those with that white speck and the shadow are, you know, like this, you know, here's the white speck and here's the shadow, they're right next to each other, that fish is right in the bottom. You know, if there's a little bit of separation between those, you can probably guess that those fish are a couple feet off the bottom. So basically how you'd fish something like this, you know, that's a pretty tight little pot of fish. I just spot lock them, loop around real quick, and make a few casts. And a lot of times I'm picking apart schools of like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 walleyes at a time. It's not that classic scenario where, you know, you might see me catching fish and you think there might be 100 walleyes behind me. That's not the case. You know, there's just not those kind of numbers in these lakes. It's a lot. You might see that on like a Mille Lacs or like a Green Bay, some of these very big systems, but for the most part in northern lakes, you're picking apart smaller pods of fish. All right, so I'm coming into this next weed edge here, and I'm right out on a point now. We're already seeing fish, so I'm gonna take a screenshot, all right? And you can see the fish, they're not very far off my right side. And you can see the weeds all of a sudden got really thick. And this is a lot of cabbage and milfoil kind of mixed in together. And I'll kind of lay this over some structure so you guys can kind of get an idea of how this is laid out. So you can see this kind of runs out to the point here, and these fish are sitting just on the outside edge of these weeds, right kind of as this point starts to fall off to deeper water. And this is something you see a lot. Once again, what do you notice about this? The fish are not right in the weeds, they're in a bald spot. And actually, as I continue to drive here, I'm getting out to even deeper water, And I'm gonna take another screenshot because there's just another pile of fish. So if you can imagine the way this point lays out, and where the weeds are on it and where the fish are on it, which is one of the most difficult things to do, is kind of make sense of what you're seeing, right? This is very difficult. So I'll go ahead and lay it out over here again. Basically, what you have is a strip of weeds that kind of starts inside and kind of wraps out to that tip, and there's a pod kind of right before that falls off on the tip, and then right on the tip of this point, just outside of the weeds, there's a whole bunch of fish right here. So it's kind of understanding these things and you know, basically translating what you're seeing in your side imaging to what you're seeing on your map that ultimately catches you more fish. You can obviously drop waypoints all over wherever you want, but it's a lot easier when it just, you know, you practice this a lot and it kind of makes sense. So whenever you're seeing stuff on side imaging, try to make that mental note of like, okay, you know, those fish are right here on the tip, those fish are on the inside. And it helps you a lot as far as orienting your boat goes and knowing where to cast and stuff like that. But once again, you notice that those fish are not packed in the weeds. They're sitting just on that outside edge, schooled up. And that was a pretty good pod. I did not see those earlier today while I was fishing, but we'll definitely come back to those ones. All right, so here's another scenario. Now we're driving down, this is a big weed flat. It's kind of, you know, it's basically 5 to 13 feet. There's kind of weeds throughout this whole area here. And I already took the screenshot, so here it is. And this is kind of, you know, kind of depending on what lake you're on or what spot you're on. This lake has a few of each. You know, some lakes will have that real clumped up weeds where it's not a lot of weeds in that lake overall, but big clump and then fish, right? Big clump of weeds, fish. Most of the lakes, on average, I would say, they'll have big weed lines and then fish relating to them. But one thing you'll see, which is basically the same, is as you work down a weed line, there'll be thicker spots, there'll be balder, less weed spots, there'll be more weeds here, less weeds here, but kind of fringy weeds throughout, right? And the same thing applies. A lot of times you'll see these fish sitting in voids in the weeds, right? We get asked a ton of questions on YouTube. I'll throw a screenshot up right here. And a lot of times these kind of spots, it'll be like fish here, fish here, fish here, fish here. It won't be like huge pocket of fish right here. And you know, that's kind of what you see in this picture. It's kind of fish scattered throughout this larger weed edge. My phone's going off here. And you know, that's another great situation that, you know, you got to kind of be paying attention for. You're not always looking for that huge pot of fish. It works great if you can see that huge pot of fish, but another scenario is obviously you have a big long weed line and fish here, 2 fish here, 3 fish here, 1 fish over here, and then you can kind of cover a little bit more water and catch those fish. All right guys, so the next thing we're gonna look at is an inside weed edge. And I've already kind of found the fish here, but basically what you're looking at right now, I'll lay this over a piece of structure. The top of this hump is 100% bald, and I'm gonna show you right here with the GoPro. Here's a big pile of fish. I'm pretty sure you guys can see those off the left right now. That's a pretty good stack of walleyes right there. And I'll go ahead and screenshot it probably so you guys can see it a little bit better. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna keep coming out here deeper and deeper and deeper. And what you're gonna see is a weed edge starting. And the weeds on this spot started about 12 feet. So here is my weeds starting, and those fish are right on that inside edge, as you can see. And actually, if I pan over to the right, here's some more fish. And these ones look like very quality fish. But you can kind of barely make it out here. Here's where your weeds start. Here's the fish on the inside, right? Here's a lot of weeds right here. There's actually a big perch ball right here, and the fish are set up on that inside edge. And that weed edge, I'll take a screenshot here so you can see it real well. That weed edge snakes down that spot just like that. Deep weeds in this lake. So I'll kind of lay that over a piece of structure here again to give you guys a better idea. So right on the top of this hump, completely bald. I hit this weed edge, and those fish are sitting right up on that inside edge before the weeds start. And the weeds kind of run from like 13 to like 20 in this spot. And those fish are perched up right on that inside edge, right where they should be this time of year. So we get asked a lot of questions about weed edge, how inside weed edge is, what is it? Basically what it is you have a ton of weeds out here deep, right? As it comes up on the top of this hump or point or flat, you lose those weeds at a set depth, or they become very thin and sparse at a set depth. And that top, that bald top, or that top that only has a few stalks of cabbage here and there, is a lot of times where those fish are gonna sit this time of year. So that was kind of a perfect diagram there of how those fish, I'll throw it up here again. You have weed edge right here, and you got the fish sitting just inside of it. Well, that is gonna kind of do it for this quick little video. Caught some fish, kind of described some weed situations that I fish a lot. Inside edge stuff, outside edge stuff, pocket weed stuff, and how fish sit just in sparse, long weed beds. So hopefully this video is beneficial for you guys. Side imaging is obviously key, and I know a lot of you guys watch my videos for that kind of practical side imaging, sonar, down imaging application stuff. And you know, that's kind of the deal. So hopefully this video is beneficial for you guys. I'm not sure what we're gonna do next, but we have a whole day ahead of us. It's only 8:30 in the morning right now, and I think we're gonna catch some more fish. So stay tuned. If you're not yet, please subscribe. Thanks for watching.